So, welcome back to the Color Him Dads podcast with Marvin Charles and Jeanette Charles. Today, I'm going to be interviewing an intern, one of Dad's intern. She signed on with us about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago, a month and a half ago, and she has been super as far as we are all really pleased by the work she's been able to do. I'll ask her to tell her story, but I'll tell you she's at her second year at the university, Seattle University to be exact, and her name is Naja Johnson. We call her by her nickname, Sunshine. And you'll be able to see why they call her Sunshine in a little bit here. But really want to acknowledge the fact that this is probably our 16th episode, 15th or 16th episode, and we are just really, we were in a learning curve. We had to learn a lot of things about this podcast medium, and particularly me to be exact, and I was very uncomfortable in the early stages of it. But I have some good people working with me, and one of them is my nephew, Irie, and he's been really coaching me and guiding me, and he's got us on YouTube and Facebook, and it's been really cool to have somebody holding your hand and guiding you along the lines, and so knowing what to do and what not to do, and really getting an in-depth look at how this medium realm works. And I'm excited about the fact that we've been able to do it. So needless to say, I think our podcasters are getting better, and I'm looking forward to watching them grow even more so. Now, if we can get a few more people watching these things, then maybe we might wind up going somewhere. So that's the purpose for having our intern Naja here, because maybe she can bring a little light to this medium for us. But again, this is the Color Him Dads podcast with Marvin and Jeanette Charles, hosted by Divine Alternative for Dad Service, which is our nonprofit. If you want any more information on this, please go to aboutdads.org. That's www.aboutdads.org, and you should be able to get all the information you want. You can get our contact information. And I think I might ask you if you could conjure up all our social media pages when we get finished.
Okay.
That way you can leave that info with them, so you might have some folks who hang out with you kind of come and look at what you've done, okay? So again, I want to introduce Naja Johnson, Sunshine, to this podcast studio, and hey, let's just chop it up. Now you know me,
Yes.
I'm the fatherhood guru guy, right?
Yes.
And I always start off with one question, and that is, tell us your fatherhood story.
Well,
And just give us as much as you want to. You don't have to go overboard if you don't want to. Mm-hmm. Of course, I promote overboard, but okay. But just share whatever your heart's desire.
well, I guess my fathering story, I want to say, is quite complex, I believe, because I really didn't start to know my dad until I was kind of an adult, until I was older. Mm-hmm. And why? Because I grew up with my grandparents. I didn't really have a good relationship with either one of my biological parents, and it was kind of distant with both. And I think after kind of my mom had passed away, I'm like, okay, I think I want to be better with get to know my dad more. And it was kind of distant, and then I think once I became an adult, we kind of just started to connect more, I believe. And I think when I came here and I worked here, I think I had heard your story. It made me like, oh, man, I want to call my dad. And I think we were in Vancouver, and I don't know, I just got this sudden urge to really call my dad. I was just like, Dad, this is your daughter. I love you, and I just want to know how you're doing. And yeah, and just I think the work here, I guess, well, that's not really my story, but I think growing up, I didn't really know my dad. And as I got older and I got to kind of talk to him and I think, become an adult and have that intellectuality and understand his past of his own father. Because when I heard some of the stuff like my grandfather and my dad's stuff did to my dad, I'm like, this makes my stuff that my dad did to me made him look like a saint almost, you know? And so I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, okay, I understand to an extent.
Yes. Yes. That's huge because it comes from somewhere. You know, I have some of these same stories as a father with my son, right? In fact, it's crazy you say that, but my son and daughter stopped by today. I have 2 children. I have 8 children, but 3 of them have my name. My daughter's name is Marvette for Marvin. My son is Marvin Jr., and then he has a brother that's older than him whose name is Nicholas, but his name is Nicholas Marvin Charles. I didn't quite do the George Foreman thing, but it could have got close, right? Right. But they stopped by today, and I remember having this conversation with him today. He was talking about some complications he's had, and I said, son, and he said, Dad, but I always remember you told me I used to just suck it up and get through it. And I had to finally tell my son that I was wrong, that I admitted to him that you can't suck it up. I thought that's what you could do because that's what I was told to do, but you can't. Some of the stuff is traumatic. There's trauma. And what I found to take place in black communities, we take trauma and call it drama, and then we figure drama, you can get over it. Drama has a beginning and an end, but trauma doesn't. Trauma, you gotta deal with it. You gotta let it out, and you gotta work with it and work on it, right? But I didn't realize that until this past year. So having that conversation with my son and daughter today, I had to just tell them, listen, there's a lot of things I shared with you about how to do this and how to do that. I was wrong, absolutely, positively wrong. And so how do we go from there? And he was saying, Dad, you know, I'm glad you're telling me that now, but I got to be honest with you, Pops. Bearing it and getting over it, bearing it was how I got over it, right? And I had to share with him that I have some therapeutic people in my life, and there is another way to get over it, to deal with it, you know. I gave him the example that it's like carrying a backpack full of rocks. The more rocks you got, the more it slows you down, the more it makes you bend over. And so we got to figure out a way to get some of those rocks out of our backpack. And so, Naja, I to hear you as a young person say that you saw what your father went through caused you to look at him different, that's pretty powerful. I want to acknowledge that for you, okay? That's really powerful. So tell me a little more.
Well, so I guess I saw my dad like as a kid, but it was kind of every couple of years, you know. It was kind of the same with, well, I saw my mom a little bit more often, but I think it all kind of started to come into play, I think, because I kind of felt like my dad was ashamed of me growing up, because I'll get into it later, but there was some concerns about, well, not concerns, but just, hold on. Well, I'm just going to be blank. My mom and dad kind of had like an affair, you know, and I was that love child. But I didn't know that until after my mom had passed away. And so I always wondered why my dad didn't want me around, you know. And my grandma, who I lived with, didn't really want me around my dad's family, because my dad was still married to his wife. And I think she had some concerns for my safety. And so my siblings didn't really know about me on my dad's side. And I ended up meeting some of my siblings before, kind of around that time, and they were excited. They were happy to meet me, you know, and I thought they were going to be angry because of all that, but no, we were kind of close. And so I think kind of getting to meet my dad and hear his side of the story and stuff, and he took responsibility, he you know, and I didn't know what I was expecting, but I think that was more.
You weren't expecting that, though.
No.
Okay.
Because I'd heard a lot of things from people. I heard a lot of things from everyone but my dad, and they weren't good things, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it was good to have that conversation. And I didn't even know my dad was there when I was born, you know, because I think you're told by a lot of people, not a lot of people, but you're told different parts of the story from different perspectives, you know, all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, I was there when you were born. And he had this picture and stuff. And I don't know, I didn't think my dad loved me, you know, because I remember I was a young kid. I was like, I think I was 10, and I think when my mom passed away, I was very alone. I felt very alone. And I remember I would call him and ask him to come to my cheer games, and he would never come. And I just felt like he was ashamed of me because of that, And so that was pretty much that. And to get older and have those conversations, see his point of view, and realizing the social norms, things that were acceptable when he was growing up, that are not acceptable today,
Right.
I'm grateful. Like, I do love my dad. I do feel like there's some growth. Like, we're not key, but, I think we're there where we need to be.
But you're working on it, right?
Yeah.
I had a wonderful opportunity to meet your dad.
Yeah.
I did. It was crazy, but I had a wonderful opportunity. It was, you said, listen, my dad might not show up, but I'd like for you to meet him. I said, well, I tell you what, how about we invite him to lunch? Right? That's how we started out. Let's invite him to lunch. I said, let's go to the 13 Coins. And so you hooked it up. I just will never forget this story he said to me. He said, you kept calling him, asking him to come and meet your boss. And he was thinking, why does she want me to meet her boss? And he said, he was thinking, she's not going to marry this guy, is she? So he said, he asked you, how old is he? He said, oh, he's 68. He said, well, she's not going to marry him. I don't have to worry about that part, right? Right. So it was. I thought it was very comical. And when we sat down to have lunch, I found him to be a very pleasing and promising guy, and there was no question in my mind that he loves you. That there were some boundaries that he crossed, and he didn't want to cross them anymore if it meant that he couldn't have a relationship with you. And so he was willing to wait. That's what I gathered from the conversation with him. But I also gathered that he was extremely proud of you. And I felt like he felt that your grandparents did an excellent job with you. And that came across pretty loud to me, you know what I mean? But then also that he loved you to this degree, and that's what came across to me, that your father's a businessman, African-American businessman in the community, and that if there's any kind of way that he could point his business towards you or to you, or it's any kind of degree or level, not that you don't have your own career, and he honors that too, but he would love to leave some parts of that, if not all of that, to you. And I thought, there's not enough of us as black men, African-American men, who are in a position to do that to our children or with our children or for our children. And I just found that to be honorable. You know, I did. Tell me a little bit about you and your career and where your dreams are headed.
Well, right now I'm currently working at chasing this degree right now. That's kind of my big thing. Well, right now I am a journalism major at the Seattle University, and kind of right now I'm kind of just focusing on school, but also working here. That's for my internship. Kind of my dreams, I think, would be to obviously be a reporter or a journalist at like a well-respected organization. And I know nowadays in the current climate, there's a lot of controversy when it comes to just the news media, I think. And I think it's unfortunate because there are a lot of reporters and journalists out there with their own agendas, and I think they definitely pollutes the industry. It makes us all kind of look bad. But I do think the media plays an important role, and I've always wanted to be part of it since I was a kid. Since I remember I watched the movie The Help when I was like 11, and I know a lot of people, this movie's kind of controversial now, but I just remember the impact that if you watch the movie that Skeeter had when she helped those maids out, you know, and how it didn't change the the climate in Jackson, but I think it helped a lot spread awareness about the maids and the women of color were going through.
And that's what inspired you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's unique.
Because she cared, and she couldn't change the law. She didn't have that power, but she met with these women and she did what she could. And I think in my career, just reporting with people, I've met people who've been going through some things or just they've seen stuff. There's issues kind of on a national scale, but how it's affecting people kind of just locally, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What makes sense to me is that you have a desired path that you've chosen, and and regardless to how it winds up, how old are you, Naja?
I'm 19.
Okay. There's not a whole lot of 19-year-olds that really are focused, knowing what they want and that they're going after it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been around quite a bit, quite a long time. The joke I always go in my household is I'm on the backside of the mountain working myself down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, there is the possibility that as you grow older, your desires could change.
Mm-hmm.
But you're pretty rooted in, I spend a lot of time with you, here at the office. And
oh, yeah. I mean, there's the possibility that may change, but I want to try it. Because I know if I go through life going through something that's more easier, because some people will take the easy way out, and I'm not trying to bash those people, but I know if I was, because there's other jobs and probably with more money, because you've looked at starting salaries in the journalism industry, it's not a lot, But I know I would go crazy wondering, what if I tried this,
Gotcha.
You just have to try,
Gotcha. Well, I think if I had any vote in that process, I would definitely vote for you to
thank you.
head in that direction. Most of you don't know, Naja's been my admin assistant, and she's been very, what's the word I'm looking for? Accountable, I'm working on my second book, and you've been right there with me. And I was just blown away by the effort that you put towards that, the research you did around fatherhood and things of that nature. And we've just started this process. I don't think we've touched on the first chapter yet. But I was really thoroughly impressed with the fact that once you got focused on it, that's what we worked on, and we went that route. And so my hopes are pretty high about your ability to master the field that you're trying to. I see it being a piece of cake, right? I also see that as a mentor, because that's what interns come into your program, and you get a chance to mentor them. First of all, I didn't see that in a million years coming, right? But the fact that it's here, I have a couple of mentors, interns here that I get a chance to speak life into. But I never saw an intern involved in journalism that would be one of the people that I would have working alongside of me writing this next book.
I didn't see it either. Thanks for taking a chance on me.
Well, think about it though. That's what we all are doing, taking a chance. I wrote my first book with a best friend of mine, right? My youngest daughter is named after him, Jamie, and so we were just taking a stab at it, right? Just putting some words on paper, and he was just kind of my coach because he had wrote, and 7-8 years later, now I'm ready to start on my second book, and I feel like my situation is a lot different, but I would say, a lot different. I have a person majoring in journalism, and then I have an editing team who did a lot of our other work. So I'm excited to see where this is going to go. I have my thoughts and fantasies about being able to, I think it happens to everybody who's writing a book. Well, man, if I get on the New York Times bestsellers list, that would be
great.
Yeah, but I'm probably like the curb is to the top of the Empire State Building from that ever happening. But
I wouldn't say that. Pretty high up.
Yeah. Well, I we'll see.
Yes.
That's a project we're working on. So tell me a little bit about your grandparents. I know your grandmother and your grandfather, and it's obvious that they've planted some really good seeds in you.
I would definitely say that like my grandma is probably my best friend, and my grandpa. I think they're two people, regardless of just everything, they've always been there for me, I think, and I just think my grandma and my grandpa both have, went through some hard times, and they've always just kind of been determined. Like, my grandma's epitome of strength, class, and everything. Like, I want to be like her when I get at her age, you know? She's sheltered a lot, but she's always just been very admirable about how she goes about it, you know? I mean, she's had her moments. We haven't, we all, but I've just always admired her approach to everything, and same thing with my grandpa. He's also experienced some things as well, but I think he's very strong. I think I've lived with them my whole life. You know, I was in foster care for a little bit, but I always kind of lived with them, you know, and I commend my grandma for always giving me a sense of normalcy and finding a way to make it happen. And when I made some bad decisions in my youth, she stood by me. I'm not going to get into it, but I did some messed up stuff, or some other parents would have been probably walked away, you know. She always kind of had my back, you know. And looking back, I'm just like, dang, you know. But yeah, I don't know if I'm telling you about her, but she's definitely my favorite person.
Yeah. It's obvious that both of them, a lot of the traits that I've been able to notice about you, I can see where they come from. You know what I mean? I had the honor and the pleasure of knowing them. I know they're people of faith, right? And so, but I tell you, a step besides that is the fact that I don't know if I made a decision to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it, okay? So I was struggling finding my fourth intern. I had an opportunity to get 4 interns, and so was struggling. And then I had some of my staff call you and interview you. And then one of them said, well, she looked like she's a good fit, but I think she's a little too young. So they had made the decision and closed the door. And they went to my wife, Jeanette, and she said, yeah, maybe so. And I'm thinking, listen, it's too hard working trying to find this 4th intern. Let me talk to her. But what I didn't do was go talk to you. I went and talked to Maria. And I said, Maria's one of our staffers, and said, can you call her grandmother? Let me talk to her. She's got the phone number. I said, listen, check this out. I'm the boss here, right? So if she has an opportunity to work, can you find her, get her to me? I just want to talk with her. And so she said, certainly I could do that. And so she called and came in, and I can't remember if I still hadn't talked to you. Huh?
Yeah. I remember my first time meeting you. You had this red tracksuit on, and you had this nice smile. I'm like, okay, he looks cool. And I just sat down and met with you, and it was a lot going on that day. But I remember the day before, or maybe the day before that, I came in, I did the interview with Johnny, head of operations, and I met Miss Jeanette, and I felt like I had it in the bag. And then, I finished the application, and next day I get an email from Johnny. He's like, yeah, vision, there's just technicalities, and it was like definite no. That's what I got from the email, and I was kind of mad. I'm not even gonna lie, 'cause I felt like I was overqualified for the job, and I felt like my age, I'm like, oh, it's a little ageism actually, but I'm just joking. But then I was kind of mad. I'm not even gonna lie. And then I think the next day I was helping my friend move some boxes, and I got a call from my mom. It's like, I met with the CEO, and he said the job is yours if you want it. And I'm like, I gotta think about it. And no, I think because Johnny had called me before, and I was gonna go work in real estate actually, and it was good money, but I didn't know if I wanted to work on the corporate side. And so I came by and I met you, and I talked to you, and I'm gonna work here.
Yeah, that was close. Okay, yeah. That was close. But I just want to tell you. Before we wrap this up, one of the things that made it really cool for me was your desire and your interest in the fatherhood arena. You know what I mean? There's not. So a lot of times, a lot of the interaction my interaction with young people is based on my reaction with my children, right? And maybe it's because I've been around this, or my children have been around this their whole life. Most of my children, I have 8 children. The 2 older ones are in their mid-30s to late 30s. The other 6 are 30-ish on down, 34 on down. And so they've been around this stuff. Jeanette and I have been doing this for 26 years, and so they don't really have a feel for this. They feel like the Ministry of Dads kind of robbed them of their childhood, right? So I kind of get that little sense from them, right?
Yeah.
So that lens is what I see all young people as, right?
I think it's kind of a perspective thing because, like, I think I told you, my grandma was a foster parent for 25 years, and I think I kind of was irritated her when she was fostering because I felt like she had so much energy for someone else's kids, but when it came to me, she didn't have time. And so I could kind of see your kid's perspective.
Okay.
You know, you have all this time. I'm not trying to maybe.
No, go ahead.
I think, you know, you have all these times to help other people, but when it comes to your other family, and that's just how they see it. They may not be how it is, but I can understand.
Okay.
And with my own grandma, that was kind of just that, you know, and we had arguments about certain kids and stuff, but we're better at a better place now, but I can understand the point of view.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. So what I looked at all young people from that lens, except for those who crossed this threshold and really saw what we were doing and really appeared to have a heart for what we were going through with our kids and with the family. But I'm noticing that little by little, my children are coming around, right? I just did a podcast with my second to the oldest son, and I was elated by how that conversations went. I'm looking forward to doing other conversations with my other children and completely give them the opportunity to kind of just, you know, speak from their heart, right? But you have encouraged me in a number of realms and to do this just by your interest in how we do the work we do, and interest of the people that we do the work for, right? So I'm having to look at this thing from a different set of lenses, okay? And I appreciate you for that, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Yeah. So listen, I want to thank you for spending this time with me, and certainly you'll be around, so I want to see what it's like after you start your second year in school this year.
I want to see what it's like too.
Hey, well, listen, those of you who are interested in this podcast, I want to give you the website again. It's aboutdads.org. That's www.aboutdads.org. And let us know what you think. Hear this out. I forget the other social medias. Are you familiar with those?
DADS 206.
DADS 206 Instagram. DADS 206 Instagram. What of our Facebook? What is that?
About Dads.
About Dads is our
Divine
Facebook.
alternatives for dad services.
Okay,
It's all linked on our website.
Is
though.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to our website, you'll find all the links to our social media pages. And again, I want to thank you. I want to thank Naja Sunshine to be here with me today. Our audio technical guy is Irie. I thank Irie for all that he does. This guy leaves work, man, and rushes here on Wednesday and puts together these podcasts for me. And I take my hat off to him because he's done it. If you don't believe me, he does a good job. Go to our social media pages, go to YouTube, and see the work that we do. In fact, go to our website. That'll lead you to it, and you get to see the work that he does. So long, good night, and we'll talk to you later.